Hey guys, let's begin our weekly live stream here. Uh, text, as you text, feverishly works and working for the last 24 hours. Like get this thing ready and working here. Tech is today, with all these advancements, we have every tech advance comes step backwards. Let's make 20 steps backwards, one for an hour. Anyway, this is Steve Rude. You're actually location. I thought we'd change up now. This being up my story studio, where we normally use live. So we are to have this take place. The underground caverns where I keep all my stash. The material that I normally don't show to the public. Actually, there's a lot of my art over the years. So much art that no one sees before. That's where I keep this stuff right here. They're fun and that no one sees. You can see behind. There's a lot of stuff going. We have a lot of sketches. We have a lot of trash cans. We have a lot of keep everything working at Rude. So that's what you're looking for around here. I thought we'd mix it up a bit here. A lot of things going on, a lot of surprises, and one of them is coming. Let's do some things here before the next place. Everyone does these things, these ink stuff. I'm going to jump on that wagon, shameful. And we've got this thing called Sketchtober coming up. Sketchtember coming up in a few days, right? Yes, it is. The producers are nodding their head to give me that cue, since I rarely know what day it is or even month. Arizona is one of the places I don't know what month it is, let alone season, because it's always the same here. Like right, pretty. So sketch is something that fun to do a sketch every day for the rest of my life. Actually, it's only going to take place for the entire month of September. Call it what we call it. So it is apparently on me. I'm by a multitude of producers that show here. But I'm going to be hoping to do a sketch every day, the entire September. They're going to be filmed, so you can see doing one a day. There's something around this studio right now. I don't. Okay, several. And obviously, this is camera number one. I'll be looking. I know we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cameras on one side. I'm not sure which one. I think there's going to be a light going on for to cue me for when I'm going to be looking. We'll switch when you go like this. That's what I'll be doing a lot of. So Sketchtember. You want to see the dude suffer? Okay, you're going to be seeing a lot of that. So on top of the Sketchtember work, I've got the Thune work. And I think last time that I've been and the pages that are produced. The way it works for all you would-be's out there, you start the story, finish the story, hand it off to the artist story, and then you hand it off to the speaks right, and then the editor sends it to reverse get used. The penciler is better. You guys knew that, right? Just checking to make sure you're paying attention. And the hands it off to finishes it up. So the colorist and back to the editor who yells at us for not doing a perfect. So, speaking of which, that's a lot of work to produce. They stretch into the 20-something pages of an entire comic book. Normally they try to ask us to do a page a day. Now there was a time back in the golden age when people had to produce a lot more than that. We know all about the great exploits of the great Jack Kirby, who was known for doing what some people call the impossible, which is 5 in completely penciled pages a day, every day, without fail. If this guy had fallen from a cliff and broken his neck, he was there at the drawing board later on that evening. If he swallowed poison and he was rushed to the hospital, they would set him up in the hospital to finish that page. So he was never late. He was never had any excuses for being not turning out those pages in time. And in the case of Steve Lou, the dude here, the humble dude, the writing, the penciling, and the inking and the lettering, and some of the coloring is all done by one guy. Guess who that is? So on top of the work that I'm trying to do with the Nexus work that I'm doing nowadays, which in this case is, I think you know the title by now, it's called the Battle for Thune World. I've got to do all this extra work. So be it. It's just the way things are nowadays. And that's fine. It's the world of social media, and let's see how I do. If I end up in the hospital, we'll be doing this next broadcast live stream from the hospital. We have the producers are signaling me for a health emergency. Did somebody die of rat poison or?
No.
People, I tell you, there's just been an amazing amount of cursing and trash can throwing in the Rude Studios here. I'm ashamed to see the reactions of these people when we have audio problems. But in fact, you can't hire enough good help, can you? I mean, you know what I'm talking about, you small business owners. Anyway, I was talking about what goes on in the life of the dude right here. I've been telling you about the latest Nexus project that is really my life's work right now. And here's a sample page of what I've been working on. I've told you about the lettering that I've been doing. Now, the lettering has to take place before I ink the book, okay? That's only common sense. In the case of this particular page, I want to show you some of the work that goes into the lettering. Now, I know you think I think you think I'm a person without flaw, but in fact, the rumors are not true. So when I screw up on things, in fact, I actually do at times, I've got to do pastings over the bad lettering that I made mistakes on. So you'll see in this case, these are actually pasted letters, which is a great advantage for me because I can just quickly take the some of the sheets that some of the producers have given for me, which is already lined up with blue line lettering lines to show me where I have to letter within, and just re-letter the thing, hopefully better this time, and then I can just paste it in. So that's been a huge boon to me, and really helping me settle things off. This is a semi-completed page, as you can see. So that's what these things look like, and that's how, as always, you can see how big this page is compared to most comic book pages. It's considerably bigger, and it's just working out so good. I'm having so much fun. Comic books,
doing a comic book, it's so funny because when I started doing comics, I kind of got into the field a little later than some of these young hot to trot punks. I was 24. A lot of them get in, you know, these they get in probably by the age of 20 or 21. That wasn't me. And by the time I did get in at 24, I was still doing fairly questionable work. But what people saw that you don't often see is you saw me develop from the ground up. For a lot of you, a lot of you have told me this over the years. You're still telling me this. I'm not in, tell the president, I am not in at the moment here. So we'll put this aside for right now. And I'm not kidding about the president. I mean, he's got a lot of problems, and he's asking me for medical advice. I'm not a doctor, but advice I can always give him that. Where was I? Um, so this is my life right here. Nexus is my life, and that's what I'm producing right now. And it is just plain fun. I'm having such a good time. Mike Barron is producing his own work, and as as proof that we're going to be getting into this in a little bit right here. A couple more bits of news before we get into the next thing right here. Um, I've been talking about these ash cans, which I think I can find a better word for. By the way, can everyone hear me now a little better? It's up to you guys to tell me. So apparently we're getting thumbs up for the mass of producers here surrounding me at this moment. Um, Film World number 3 preview is available for pre-sale. So pre-order on your screen for a limited time. They always pull it at limited time stuff, which is true. And you can also order a copy of the sold-out Film World number 1. Now, if you want to get the complete set, they go fast. So order them today. You won't regret it. Letter of the week. I think we're going to start a new thing here. Pardon my stuttering. I've always done that, but you ought to see my brother. We're going to start a new thing called the Letter of the Week here. As you know, I've always mentioned that Nexus fans are a particularly astute bunch. They want something more out of life than just your average, hey, how are you kind of stuff. And it just so happens that I found one. I got one of these letters recently, and this one is worth reading here. So I'm going to briefly go over it. It's from a guy named Mike. Last name's a little bit of a tongue twister, so I'm going to try to twist my tongue and say Sneathen, okay? So here's the letter. Okay, bear with me here, guys. So hail, dude, and of course, Janelle. I imagine that as a comic book artist, you get a lot of mails from fans requesting that you take time out of your schedule and draw something for them for little or no benefit to yourself. Really. I'm going to be upfront about this. This is one of those emails. So he goes on to say he met me at the Portland Comic Show, which was a while ago. And he says, I don't expect you to remember me, but at the time, I was in the middle of a 5-year stretch where I had lost the capacity for speech. Now imagine the guy. He came up to me, but he couldn't talk. So apparently he must have used some kind of a sign language or just held up cue cards, which is what they're doing for me right now. The doctors still don't know why he had this problem. So he came to this convention armed with a lot of money, like a lot of you guys do, with a note explaining what he wanted. He wanted a sketch of a very obscure Nexus character named Otis. Now, how many of you guys remember the character of Otis? This is actually one of the rare times that I had named one of the characters in Nexus, because Barron was the master of naming these characters. He was unparalleled at that. I was an amateur and always deferred to him for good reason. Anyway, so the story of Otis, we had these 3 girls. They were all part of the Loomis family. Does anyone remember that? You longtime fans? And Barron had the youngest girl, Mashana, carrying around a stuffed animal. And this guy remembers it as being a stuffed teddy bear. Now, I don't quite recall it like that. To me, it was a stuffed aardvark. And so Baron, and one of the few times he delivered kind of a generic name for a character, called him Vark, V-A-R-K. I said, nah, let's call him Otis. Now the reason I called him Otis is because I happened to be dating this girl at the time who worked at the Madison Zoo, and she watched these monkeys. They were rhesus monkeys. For you you simian types out there that know your monkeys. And there was a group called the O family, so they all had to start with an O. So one of them was Otis. So I'll never forget Otis. So I named him Otis. So that's where that came from. So, but this guy wanted the sketch of Otis, so yeah, he got it right. He remembers you got a permission from a simian friend of yours at the zoo to use his name for the character. So I had to go up to Otis, shake his hand, make him sign off on using his name officially for the Nexus comic book, and not to get any of his lawyers involved. And we actually called him Otis. So this guy goes on to say, I hope we would always meet at another convention so I could get another sketch from you. And so he goes on to say that I just saw on your live stream, which we're looking at now, the information about Sketchtember, which we talked about earlier, right? So this is his opportunity to jump me. I can't afford your non-convention price for a sketch. I am disabled and living at $800 a month from SSI. I assume that's Social Security producers. But as much as I would love to own the sketch I'm about to describe, I mainly want the image even just as a JPEG. So he's already got the Otis sketch. Well, so what is he exactly he wants here?
He wants you to draw Otis during Sketchtember. So
he wants Otis during Sketchtember. He wants another Otis right here. Oh, this is interesting. So a year or so after we got the Otis sketch from the Portland show, which was a while ago, his mother went into the hospital with an inoperable tumor in her spine. We were informed that she didn't have much time left, such as the condition of cancer. And I spent as much time as I could in the hospital room with her, sleeping in the chair with her at night. One morning, this guy woke up in the hospital and heard my little sister and her boyfriend in a room with us. Remember, he was just waking up and he heard his sister and his boyfriend talking. I was just laying in this weird wooden recliner listening to them chat. And the boyfriend was braiding my sister's hair. Happens every day right in the hospital. And at one point he said, this would be a lot easier braiding his sister's hair if I had 3 arms. Now, wouldn't it though? And my immediate mental reaction to this was the realization that I desperately wanted to Steve a sketch of Creed, 4-armed Creed, braiding Mary Kaczynska's hair while eating an apple. Pretty specific, right? Yeah, I know I'm a little weird, but aren't we all? But my desire for that drawing has steadily increased over the years. I understand that. Obsessions are like that, right? So that's my very hopeful request. If you consider sliding that drawing into your Sketchtember slots, email me an image of it before you sell it for auction, or contact Sotheby's. Thank you for taking the time to read this. Your fan, Mike Snelden. So that's the letter of the week. Like I said, very interesting bunch of fans we have here. Let's go back to my my sheet that explains what I'm exactly supposed to be talking about to you guys. We had a winner last week of the free sketch. Guy's got a kind of unusual name. We don't have his real name, but his handle was the Fool Killer. Now I would imagine a guy with the name Fool Killer, he's going to be pretty busy for the rest of his life. Because I know a lot of fools, and apparently he does too. So, along with the letter of the week, we're also doing this thing, as you probably know, this question of the week. We're going to have to get some bumper music into that. The question of the week usually pertains to high society and the things that have taken place throughout the dawn of history. Well, in this case, it's about me. I really admit that. So this is for you hardcore guys that have been following me from the very, very beginning. And since I know my own life pretty good, let's give it a shot, okay? And the question is the following. You ready? What kind of artist did a young Steve Rude want to be before he decided a life in comics? Now I can see the huge 10-foot clock behind me here, or in front of me rather, that is ticking away. So you guys have about a minute and a half to deliver your answers here. Now I got to tell you, as you know, I've got a lot of work to accomplish here before the end of September. And I don't think I'm going to be able to do any more free sketches, but what you do have is my undying appreciation. So whatever that's worth, let's hear your answers. What kind of artist did the young Steve Rude want to be before he decided on a life of comics? So we have some queries going on here.
Loomis.
Oh, Loomis. Did I want to be, this young Steve Rude want to be a Loomis before he decided on a career in comics? That would be an illustrator, I assume. That's posed a little weird, but no, I did not want to be Andrew Loomis because he was dead. Keep going, guys. I know you guys are a very stubborn bunch when it comes to finding the right answers to the right question here. So, in the meantime, let's see if we can wrap up that section of our live stream here before we go on to the next.
You have another guess?
We have another guess. Okay, so let's hear the guess number 2 about what comic artist did a young Steve Rude want to be before he decided on a life in comics.
Hanna-Barbera animator.
Hanna-Barbera animator is the second guess. The first one was being Andrew Loomis, who was dead, and an HB animator, which is a very good guess. Hanna-Barbera animator. You guys are coming up with some good ones. I mean, in a different life, that's exactly what I might have wanted to be. But that is incorrect. So let's have if we have any more guesses.
Jack Kirby.
I wanted to be Jack Kirby. Well, he was alive and kicking. I think if there was going to be more than one Jack Kirby, I certainly didn't have the brains for that. So another good guess. So far we've got, I wanted to be Andrew Loomis, I wanted to be a Hanna-Barbera animator, and I wanted to be Jack Kirby.
We have another one for graphic designer.
Graphic designer. Well, that's another good guess. I'm giving you a big clue by saying an artist, at least. But it wasn't a comic book artist. I wanted to be something else. So we got one more try out there before I give you the answer to what I wanted to be before I decided on a life in comics. So let's hear it, guys. I see the clock back there. I can see that little second hand ticking away. And I'm sure we're going to get somebody who is so far smarter than me that he's going to get this. He's going to nail this question, and I'm going to be embarrassed because I never thought anyone would get this.
Someone else said Norman Rockwell.
I wanted to be Norman.
That was Miss Diana.
Norman Rockwell. Does that mean I wanted to be Norman Rockwell? Well, there's only one Norman Rockwell, and I think with his talent, I couldn't even approach tying his shoelaces. He was so good. But no, okay, so I guess it's time to reveal the answer. What kind of an artist did a young Steve Rude want to become before I decided on a life in comics? And here's the answer. Did everyone read Charlie Brown in the comic strips in the Sunday newspaper and Snoopy? Well, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be a comic strip artist. And I wanted to draw funny animal stuff like Snoopy and Charlie Brown. That was my goal. And when I was in the 7th grade, and they used to ask us these silly questions about, well, our 20-year, what did they call it, our 20-year reunion or something like that? Did you guys have that in 7th grade like we did? Um, anyway, I didn't really understand the question because I was pretty dumb back then. And so I wrote down, I had to ask the teacher, what do you mean by that? He says, well, what do you want to be in 20 years? I said, how would I know that? Um, it's not 20 years hence. Uh, maybe next week I could answer that. But no, I told him I wanted to be a comic book artist. This is what I recall me writing. A comic strip artist like Charles Schultz and draw Snoopy and Charlie Brown type stuff. And for for the next couple of years, that's what I tried to do. And then I just rediscovered comic books as a freshman in high school. So that was only 2 years from that time I was asked that question. And when I rediscovered comic books, I realized that just drawing funny stuff like Charlie Brown and Snoopy and Lucy and Linus was not going to cut it for me. I wanted more than that. But to get more than that, you had to have an incredible amount of study that was going to take place to come up to the kind of talent level, which is immense to do comic books. I mean, think about it, all the stuff you have to learn to do comics. You have to be expert in figure drawing. Well, that may not apply now, but it's a different world nowadays. You have to learn, you have to know perspective. You have to know black and white design. You have to know composition within panels. You have to know panel flow. You have to know page flow. What else do you? What other of the 100 or so things do you have to know? You have to know how to draw everything. Okay. I remember talking to somebody. God, it must have been during the first issue of Nexus. I was writing all these prose letters. You remember letters? And I was asking him, well, like every guy from that age who was just starting out, what do I have to learn to be good? And he says, well, this guy wrote me back and said, well, you have to learn how to draw everything. If you have a horse in a scene, you have to learn how to draw horses. If you have a blowhard in the scene, dogs, you have to learn how to draw a dog. Well, what kind of blowhard? Is it a Welsh Corgi, like my friend Biscuit? Is it a blowhard like my friend Flowhard, which is a half beagle? Is it a German Shepherd like Shabby Shab, who just died recently? Or anything. You have to have, at least back then, you had to have an immense reference file of all of these things. Now, it was a really funny day when this internet thing came along because we didn't have to go to the library anymore. It started out small, but eventually, I remember talking to my friend Stru. His name is Drew Strusen, but I call him Stru. And I said, where are you getting this stuff? Where are you getting some of this reference you're using now? He says, well, there's this stuff, I get it on the, he says, don't tell anyone, but I get it on the internet. I said, well, what's that? I still barely know what that is. Because I have my assistants do all that work for me. The hundreds that I employ and pay very cheaply. And so I started going to all these sites. And now the whole thing is blowing up and it's immense. And so 90% of everything we get is not from the library anymore. But I still have my files. And they're all paper files. And I've got my big storage boxes and I put all my files in there. And I'm a happy guy. And I'll be using that for the rest of my life because I'm an old-fashioned kind of a guy. Okay, so the moment of truth is coming up. We have a big surprise for everyone. And I think we're going to cue the surprise right now. At the end of this little thing we're going to be showing here, I'll be back to answer more questions and tell you some more really cool stuff about what we're doing here. Producers are ready to show this? Okay, hit it, Zeba. Go. Okay, so apparently the interview with the president is not going at the moment, but what we were able to show you was a friend of mine that I've missed for a long, long time. that we hadn't seen each other in a long time. So when we met, it was quite the wonderful moment. And so you saw it there on tape. I'm very proud of that moment, and I'm glad to share it with you. So we're going to go back to the main event here. And the main event. Oh, okay. We already talked about Sketchtember, and every day I'm going to be slaving away at doing a drawing or painting a day. They want it to be in color. The producers have insisted it's going to be in color, and yeah, no problem. Easy for them to say. Um, I think you guys have been told that I don't do quick sketches, and that's because, well, there is a reason behind it. I don't do them because I can't do them. I get carried away, and pretty soon what should be done is a quick sketch, as you guys know them to be. It turns into an all-day affair. And I get nothing done in the film world, and that's just the way it works out. We're also, like I said, we're going to be posting these every day, and the sketches that I'm going to be doing, if I can pull this off, will be available for sale every day. So, when are they going to be posted? Daily video and a finished piece goes up at 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time every day. So you guys in France are going to have to stay up all night to see what I'm going to be doing there. Now, speaking of friends I haven't seen in a long time, these are friends I see every day. And these friends of mine, they're pets, okay? Like my friend the duck. What we're going to show you now is the abhorrent behavior that I'm subject to every day as I'm trying to work. So, first thing I'm going to show you is the way these two carry on in front of all of us, which I'm very ashamed of. So let's hit it and show you what they really are like when we're not looking here. So, what you don't know is the way they're real is the way they act when they're not in camera, and so this is a behind the scenes thing of what they're looking like when they're everyone's not looking. Okay,
Oh, we're trying to pull up the picture.
it's a little embarrassing, like I said. Producers are working feverishly to get the right shot here. You know, this is when you do live stuff. You know, it's like I said, it's. All right, so you know that's what they pull on me every day. You know, they do this crazy stuff, and then they when I'm not looking, they act like they're best friends. Sketchbooks. Everyone wants to see the sketchbook. Here it is, log number 8. First official log recording, June 25th, 2022. Did we ever think we'd see the year 2022 back in the 1970s when I was going to high school? No, we couldn't even fathom that. And look at all the great things that have happened. The world is falling apart, and we're all going to hell. So, what does this say right here? Oh, it's some comments. Lately I've been, you know, I get all these comments from you nice guys out there, and normally I just put them in a file. But recently I thought, why don't I just paste these nice comments from people in the sketchbook, you know, for posterity's sake? And I've been doing that, and it's a lot of fun. So this is a warm-up painting from a Cornwell painting. But now, who knows the name of this artist is Cornwell? Well, I'm going to give you a hint because I don't think everyone knows about this guy, but he's a genius. Every illustrator knows about him. His name is Dean Cornwell. And that's a copy of one of his works, which explains a lot of where I get my artistic knowledge from. You know, people these days call them master studies. I just call them copies. And that's what I do to learn what I learn. Let's turn the page to see what else I've got here. Here's a guy yelling. Here's a girl staring. Here's a guy yelling again. And here's JC. So this is actually the product of the work of JC Leyendecker. And I thought I would translate that for practice into pen and ink. Here's a Rockwell girl. I painted that in opaque watercolor. Here I was screwing around right here with some pen and ink hatching, which is something I'll be experimenting with for the rest of my life. This is not something you have down. In fact, I've actually come to the conclusion that there's no such thing as having anything down. Every time you wake up, it's going to be different. It doesn't matter if you've done 1,000 pieces. I think most artists will confirm this. It's different every day. Now, I can't account for that. I know a lot of guys talk about how they will go home from the studio one day and they'll say, you know, I've got it down. I think I finally gripped it. And then they go into the studio next day and they're thinking, what was I talking about? So JC Leyendecker and JC. Let's turn the page right here. Well, look, by God, it's more pen and ink. Most of these are failures, and that's why we practice. That's the bride I almost married. Here's Marilyn, the girl that looks much like I did marry, Princess Gino Ginelli. That was done. Actually, that's going to be a upcoming YouTube video. And I've done these watercolor color pencil things before, and I'm always working on them because I always need to work on them. But that's the way that one turned out. So you'll see later on, once we get one of these editors to put aside everything they're working on now for some of the big TV shows of the day and help me out with my stuff. More Leyendecker, it looks like. By baby's feet. And you can never do too many baby's feet. This is from a Leyendecker, more color pencil. More color pencil. This was from a photograph from my files right here. And that turned out pretty good. I think that's also going to be in the Maryland color pencil watercolor video that I did. Here's a drawing that I never got around to inking right there. Classic Gibson style. Here's Dorothy running from a lion. Here's a handbag. As you people know out there, you can never have enough practice in handbags. This is a copy of an artist that I admire right here from one of the San Francisco schools. I think this is Grumpy and a Deer. This is a complete utter failure, which I'm not afraid to show you guys because everyone does failures, even me, more often than you think. Some things I never got around to finishing here. This is the way they started out. I have a great Xerox machine upstairs, and so that's the pencil drawing. This is the way they looked. I glued them up down in proportion to on a Xerox machine, and then I just worked over these. They need to be finished. Will I ever get around to that? Who knows? Oh, good. Oh, that's mine right there. This is a copy I did of a Leyendecker cow. Now, being from Wisconsin, you guys know that I'm really big on cows because they have skinny feet. This is a copy of a Rockwell leg that was taken from his incredible painting of from one of the movies he was commissioned to work on, from Samson and Delilah. So this is actually the leg of Samson himself, played by Victor Mature. This is from Legata. Now, nobody knows who Legata is except for us illustrators. And I saw this painting. No, it was actually a charcoal. And so I got my charcoal out and tried to copy what you did. Now, when you copy things, you maintain a lot of the after image from the things you do studies of. And that's where a lot of my memorization has come from. I hope this is interesting to you guys. This is a pastel of a sunbloom right here. We call him Sunny. This is the pastel of a Legata girl right here. This is pasted in. This is actually on the paper, which is not really meant for pastel, but I forged ahead anyway. Watercolor studies. Isn't that amazing? Well, it's partially amazing, but I'm always trying. This is from Aunt Jemima or something like that. This is how I break down my thumbnails when I blow them up. I just put the grid over it and I redo the grid on a bigger piece of paper, and I just kind of transfer it from there. You might remember this right here from a piece I did a couple weeks back. It's a big pinup of Nexus. This is the way it started out when I finished it. And then I wanted to add something to it, so I added the background. This is Thomas Edison. That's a watercolor. Here's another thumbnail. And Amblin Partners. And I would have thought that'd be Amblin Productions. Oh, this is a letter to me from the Spielberg people, telling me that they love me. They're going to be inviting me for lunch in Burbank before the month is out. But I'm going to be busy in September, so I don't know if I can make it. This is a piece that is partially finished that I didn't get around to finishing. And what is it saying down there? Oh, it's too flattering to believe. Oh, this is cool. I used to get these incredible things from Chinese restaurants, and I've pasted these things in my whole life. This one says, can you read that right there? Let's get a perfect zoom into there. No, forget it. I'm just kidding. It says, visualize the wind. Now let's think about that, guys. What does that mean? Visualize the wind. The wind. You can do the wind too, but in this case, it's the wind. Now, what I see that as, remember I have this Nexus TV show coming up here? Visualize the wind. Well, it hasn't happened yet, but it will. So when I read this right here, that's what I was thinking about. Visualize the wind of the eventual Nexus cartoon show that everyone's waiting for, but nobody in the executive world knows it yet. Now here's one that everyone would love to get. You're as intelligent as you are good looking. Okay, well I accepted that one, so I slapped that one in there. This is a study of something that's on YouTube at the moment right here. I did a pastel demonstration at Atomic Comics, and I had a live model there. And this is one of the little studies I did before I went on. Spider Gwen. Here's an arm. You can never do too many arms. This is a little thumbnail of the piece I ended up doing right there, along with some of my studies. Here's a guy's pajamas right there. You can never do too many of those. What does it say down here? I'll read it to you in a second. This is more pen and ink work. And more pen and ink work. Don't be afraid to make mistakes in your sketchbook. That's what it's for. If you try to be too precious, all you're going to do is frustrate yourself. And that's no way to think. So try to loosen up, guys, and not take it too seriously. This is a quote from a girl that worked with Gene Roddenberry at the Star Trek show. I pasted this in there for a reminder of how I want my life to go and how I want people to think of me. Here's what it says. Gene Roddenberry was very particular about matching, she recalled. The costumes were usually sewn on because he didn't want to see zippers or hooks. So the costume was sewn on the actor, then taken off and sewn on again. More than a few times a day. It had to look exactly the same in every shot. And Mr. Roddenberry didn't allow any weak links. But Gene was not difficult to work for. He just wanted to know that he cared. The bar was high, and he didn't put up with anybody who didn't want to do it the way he wanted it done. I suspect we have a few producers back there that are thinking the same thing about me. So anyway, let's open this up to a few more questions here. I kind of given you my big spiel here. Is there anything else I need to go on about this blah blah stuff? We have more TikTok and YouTube videos coming up, but let's just open it up right now for some private talk here. Let's see what you got, guys.
So someone on Facebook wants to know, have you ever met Kirby? So they need to go watch our YouTube video.
Okay, well, the question was, have I ever met Kirby? Jack Kirby. Yes, I have. So, some of you might know that we've been doing these who are my influences videos, and one of them was all about meeting Jack Kirby and how I've been influenced by him. So there's your answer to that. But let's get some really good, sincere, questions that kind of go below the surface, because that's what I'm really good about talking about. Nexus fans are really good for that. So let's see what we got here.
Have you ever thought of creating a strip comic series like Calvin and Hobbes in the future?
Yeah, good. Okay, that kind of goes. The question was, have I ever thought about? Wait, am I getting tired? Have I ever thought about doing a comic strip like Calvin and Hobbes in the future? Well, as a matter of fact, doing these Nexus books, these oversized Nexus books, the great thing about doing these books is, because they're all mine, the part of the fun of that is thinking of anything that you've ever wanted to do, you're free to do it. Nothing is restricting you. And that's why I so encourage you guys out there to do self-publishing. We have the ability to do that now. We don't have to cater to the big companies like we used to and wait for their response a year later to see that we got rejected. We can do these things, and I think we should really look into that, because I think that's the future of our business. So, just as I'm able to do what I'm doing right now in any way that I want it, with all my good taste and my 40 years of working hard at this great field of artistic endeavor here, you guys can do the same. So in fact, there are going to be some comic strips we're going to be introducing in the next volume of the Nexus books. And we've already advertised it in the last volume, Cormondo, coming in Cormondo. So if you want to know what's coming up, there you go. Seems like we have some more questions coming in. Let's see what they are.
Steve, why did the main publishers cancel romance books? I know Simon and Kirby created the romance books, and there's some beautiful art in a lot of the early ones.
Yeah, we're getting some good questions here. Questions that kind of go below the surface here of things that we can really think about and talk about. The guy wants to know why the romance comics back in the 50s were eventually canceled. Well, let's think about this, guys. This is a world of commerce, isn't it? And what we're looking at here is what you and I see, what you and I as creative types see as incredible unfairness is not the way the business types look at. They don't look at the things the way we do. They look at it in an entirely objective way. So somebody will come along and do their best to foresee the next trend, and then they'll act on that trend. Someone will be given a chance. Let's try this. Superheroes have kind of run their course. What are we going to do now? Well, there's a lot of different categories to. One of them, at that time, was romance comic books, and when somebody, particularly, we're going back to Kirby again, who's remember this guy started in the 1940s, and he just kept going. And by the time I knew about him in the 1960s, he was already 20 years into the field. And his greatest partner was not Stan Lee. Kirby was in his late 40s by the time he started working with Stan Lee. His greatest partner was, when he started out in the business, Joe Simon. They were both very young guys. The war was just starting. That's when they happened to invent Captain America for that dirtbag Martin Goodman, who screwed them out of everything. That's another thing about these people in the commerce business. They do things that are I had the perfect word in my head, and I can't think of what it is. It's unconscionable. That's how there's a fraction of people in this world that treat people unconscionable. And they do that because The reason people do that to others is because they have more power over the people that they hire, and therefore they think because they have that advantage over people, they are somehow entitled to treat them less than the way they themselves would want to be treated. So that's where that thing comes from, where you treat those as you would want to be treated yourself. But that's not the way most people are. So you have when you walk your path in this world, you have